ലോകജാലകത്തിലൂടെ നമ്മുടെ ജീവിത പങ്കാളിയെ കണ്ടെത്താൻ
വേൾഡ് മാട്രിമോണി.
Perception. Learning objectives. 1. Understand the influence of biases in the process of perception. 2. Describe how we perceive visual objects, how these tendencies may affect our behavior. 3. Describe the basis of self-perception. 4. Describe the basis inherent in our perceptions of other people. Our behavior is not only a function of our personality and values, but also of the situation. We interpret our environment, formulate responses, and act accordingly. Perception may be defined as the process by which individuals detect and interpret environmental stimuli. What makes human perception so interesting is that we do not solely respond to the stimuli in our environment. We go beyond the information that is present in our environment, pay selective attention to some aspects of the environment, and ignore other elements that may be immediately apparent to other people. Our perception of the environment is not entirely rational. For example, have you ever noticed that while gazing at a newspaper or a news website, information that is especially interesting or important to you jumps out of the page and catches your eye? If you are a sport fan, while scrolling down the pages, you may immediately see a news items describing the latest success of your team. If you are the mother of a picky eater, an advice column on toddler feeding may be the first thing you see when looking at page. If you were recently turned down for a loan, an item of financial news may jump out at you. Therefore, what we see in the environment is a function of what we value, our needs, our fears, and our emotion. 1. In fact, what we see in the environment may be objectively flat or wrong because of such mental tendencies. For example, one experiment shown that when people who were afraid of spider were shown spider, they inaccurately thought that the spider was moving toward them. 2. In this section, we will describe some common perceptual tendencies we engage in when perceiving objects or other people and the consequences of such perceptions. Our coverage of this perceptual basis is not exhausted. There are many other bases and tendencies that can be found in the way people perceive stimuli. Visual perception. Our visual perception definitely goes beyond the physical information available to us. This phenomenon is commonly referred to as optical illusions. Artists and designers of everything from apparel to cars to home interiors make use of optical illusion to enhance the look of the product. Managers rely in their visual perception to form their opinions about people and objectives around them and to make sense of data presented in graphical form. Therefore, perception may be based as important. First, we extrapolate from the information available to us. Take a look at the first figure. The white triangle you see in the middle is not really there, but we extrapolate from information available to us and see it there. Similarly, when we look at objects that are partially black, we see the whole. 3. Now, look at the next figure. What do you see? Most people look at this picture and see two faces or a goblet depending on which color, black or white, they focus upon. Our visual perception is often based because we do not perceive object in isolation. The contrast between our focus of attention and the remainder of the environment may make an object appear bigger or smaller. This principle is shown here in the third figure. At first glance, the circle on the left may appear bigger, but they are the same size. This is due to the visual comparison of the middle circle on the left with its surrounding circles, whereas the middle circle on the right is compared with the bigger circles surrounding it. How do these tendencies influence behavior in organization? The fact that our visual perceptions is faulty means that managers should not always take what they see at face value. Let's say that you do not like one of your peers and you think that you saw this person surfing the web during work hours. Are you absolutely sure? Or are you simply feeling that the gaps? Have you really seen this person surf unrelated with website? Or it's possible that the person was researching for work-related purposes. The tendency to fill in the gaps also causes our memory to be faulty. Imagine that you have been at a meeting where several people made comments that you did not agree with. After the meeting, you may attribute most of these comments to people you did not like. In other words, you may twist the reality to make your memories more consistent with your opinion of people. The tendency to compare and contrast objects and people to each other also causes problem. For example, if your manager who has been given an office much smaller than the other offices on the floor, you may feel your workplace is crowded and uncomfortable. If the same official is surrounded by smaller offices, you may actually feel that your office is comfortable and roomy. In short, our biased visual perception may lead to the wrong inferences about the people and object around us. Self-perception. Human beings are prone to errors and biases when perceiving themselves. Moreover, the type of bias people have depend on their personality. Many people suffer from self-enhancement bias. This is the tendency to overestimate our performance and capabilities and see ourselves in more positive light than others see us. People who have narcissistic personality are particularly subject to this bias, but many others also have this bias to varying degrees. 4. At the same time, other people have the opposing extreme, which may be labeled as self-effacement bias or modesty bias. This is the tendency to underestimate our performance and capabilities and to see events in a way that puts ourselves in a more negative light. We may expect that people with low self-esteem may be particularly prone to make this error. These tendencies have real consequences for behavior in organization. For example, people who suffer from extreme level of self-enhancement tendencies may not understand why they are not getting promoted or rewarded, while those who have the tendency to self-abase may project low confidence and take more blame for their failures than necessary. When human beings perceive themselves, they are also subject to the false consensus error. Simply put, we overestimate how similar we are to other people. 5. We assume that whatever quirks we have are shared by a larger number of people than in reality. People who take office supply home to white lies to their boss or colleges or take credit for other people's work to get ahead may genuinely feel that these behaviors are more commonly than they really are. The problem for behavior in organization is that when people believe that behavior is common and normal, they may repeat the behavior more freely. Under some circumstances, they may lead to a high level of unethical or even illegal behaviors.